Previously.
One day, Mark hit me up and was like, "Yo, come through to the morgue. I'll show you around."
Hey, Jake, the coast is clear. The staff's all gone. It's just us until 6 in the morning. This is gonna be fucking lit. I left the key in there so the dude from the next shift can let himself in.
There was no signal this deep in the basement.
A young guy and girl, both about the same age. No one's sure if these two were some wannabe Satanists or if they just got high and ended up killing each other.
I was so caught up in laughing and trading stories that I almost forgot we were in a damn morgue, surrounded by corpses. But then something strange happened.
Steve, you there?
I swear we'd locked that thing earlier. He pushed the door open and we both froze. One of the bodies was missing.
Jake, this is bad. We need to find that body.
She was devouring the poor bastard's eyes, chewing up his hands. No fucking way.
Who the fuck are you, bitch? No. Close the fucking door quickly. These addicts, man, when they're high, they're crazy strong. Not even a SWAT team could take her down right now. We need to call the cops.
But when we reached for the landline, it was dead. But then we got hit with another nasty surprise. The key was gone.
No, fucking key!
The damn lock was sealed tight, cutting off our way out. Then it hit us, the other body.
Did you see that the other dude wasn't there?
Right, that thing's still wandering around here, and I bet the keys are with him. Look at those tracks.
Jake, we're gonna have to take him down, and we need to hit him hard enough so he doesn't get back up. Be ready, he's gonna fight like a demon.
We swept through the bathrooms, empty. Then we hit the storage rooms, nothing. But I almost crapped myself when a damn rubber doll fell off a shelf, one of Steve's creepy toys he uses when he's alone. When we found him, he was sitting in a corner of the small utility room, naked, his skin the same deathly hue as the woman's. He stared at the floor, unmoving. Mark, completely pissed off, yelled at the corpse,
"Hey, you bastard, give me the key here."
But instead of reacting like a normal person, this piece of shit casually took the key, shoved it into his rotting mouth and swallowed it. We just stood there, absolutely fucking stunned. How the hell does that even happen? We couldn't believe what we were seeing. The corpse slowly rose to its feet, its body moving in jerky, unnatural motions. It started shuffling toward Mark, making these gross, sloshing sounds mixed with low, guttural groans. Its walk was off, like one leg had no bones in it, just dragging along. Mark, terrified, stumbled back and yelled,
"Jake, hit him in the head!"
I had the fire extinguisher at the ready, so I swung it as hard as I could at the thing's head, but it barely flinched. Panic surged through me as I realized that wasn't enough. Desperate, I tossed the extinguisher aside, grabbed a metal rod and rammed it straight into the corpse's chest, pinning the bastard to the wall. It let out a nasty moan, trying to wrench itself free, but I held it down. Mark snapped out of his fear, his face twisted with anger. He rushed forward, swinging the axe with full force.
"Die, you bastard, die, asshole!"
He screamed, hacking away at the dead man. Blood sprayed across the floor as Mark kept chopping, over and over, until the body was nothing but a heap of mangled flesh. Everything became a gnarly blur of blood and torn limbs, fingers, hands, legs, all blending into some kind of horrific, blood-soaked stew. It felt like a bad dream, a twisted nightmare. Somewhere in the morgue, the second creature screeched and howled like a demon in the dark. Only when the corpse was completely unrecognizable, reduced to a pile of shredded meat, did Mark collapse onto the floor, gasping for air, trying to regain his senses. There was silence. Mark, his voice shaky, muttered,
"Jake, what have we done? What's even going on?"
Then something happened. I saw it, and for a moment I questioned if this was really just a junkie's death. The severed head didn't lie still like a normal decapitated head. Its eyes snapped open, dark, bloody, and full of malice. Those eyes, they still haunt me. The head began to wheeze loudly, and then came a horrible guttural laugh. "You're going to die! You're both going to die! You're not getting out of here! You're fucked, you cocksuckers!" Panic gripped me. My mind was paralyzed. What the hell is this? I thought. How is this even possible? It was beyond anything I could comprehend. But Mark was different, fueled by rage. He leapt to his feet, grabbed the axe again, and started smashing the head with the blunt end. "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up!" he screamed, hitting it with everything he had, desperate to destroy this nightmare. The morgue hallway, which used to be all sterile and white, had turned into a blood-soaked nightmare. Our feet and hands kept slipping in the blood, like we were trapped in some fucked-it-up horror show. Mark and I knelt down, trying not to gag as we dug through the mangled, torn-apart remains of what used to be a man. Blood, chunks of flesh, and bone fragments stuck to our hands as we frantically searched for the key. The stench was unbearable, a mix of decay and fresh blood, like something had crawled out of hell itself. My fingers slid through the gnarly mess, touching things I didn't even want to think about. Organs, tendons, bits of skull. Every handful was a disgusting reminder of the nightmare we were trapped in. Mark, cursing under his breath, shoved aside a bloodied rib and finally found the key, buried deep in the mess of muscle and gore. His hands were trembling, covered in blood and God knows what else. "Got it," he whispered, his voice shaky as he held up the bloodied key, barely able to steady himself. The whole situation was sickening, like some twisted horror movie we couldn't escape from. With trembling hands, Mark unlocked the door and we bolted toward the stairs. But just as we reached them, Mark suddenly stopped, grabbing my arm.
"Jake, wait!"
His voice was shaky, barely holding it together.
"Listen, we can't call the cops, man. Think about it."
I turned to him, trying to wrap my head around everything. "What the hell are you talking about?" Mark's face was pale, eyes wide with panic.
"They won't believe us, man. Think about it. How do we explain this? We killed them, but they were already dead. You saw it, Jake. What is dead may never die. Cops are just gonna see two guys standing over hacked up bodies. They're not gonna listen to us trying to explain that these things were walking and talking after they died."
I felt like my mind was slipping, struggling to keep up with the insanity. What the fuck, man? Are we seriously talking about dead people coming back to life? Mark nodded frantically.
"Exactly. You saw it too. That wasn't a person anymore. That was something else. Fucking black magic or some demonic possession, I don't know. But the cops won't care. They'll just think we butchered them. End of story."
I was losing it. This can't be real. But Mark kept going.
"We need to handle this ourselves, Jake. There's still one more of those things in there. We kill it, we chop it up, and we take the bodies to the woods, burn them. They're dead on paper already, man. We clean it up and no one's the wiser. I'll handle the documents."
I stared at him, still trying to process it all. "But we're seriously gonna do this?" Mark nodded again, desperation in his eyes.
"We have to. The cops won't help us. They won't believe us. What is dead may never die, Jake. They'll just see two stoned idiots with a bunch of hacked up corpses. We're fucked if we don't take care of this ourselves."
I didn't need any more convincing. There was no turning back now. We approached the door to the cadaver room where that freaky-ass thing was still hanging around. My mind was on the verge of shutting down. This isn't just some fucked up junkie, this is something from the other side, some demonic shit.
"Jake, I'm opening the door. Be ready,"
Mark whispered, gripping the axe with trembling hands. He yanked the latch and flung the door open, quickly stepping back. Nothing but darkness stared back at us. No sign of the creature, just a pitch-black void. A foul wind rushed out of the room, cold as the grave, hitting us like a wall. The smell was unbearable, like dug-up earth, rotting corpses, and the stench of death itself. "I don't see her. There's no light," Mark muttered, his voice shaking. "It's just a black hole in there." The icy draft sent chills down my spine, and with it came the unmistakable odor of decay, worms, and freshly turned soil. It was like death had made its home in that room. Mark hesitated, then reached into the dark void, his fingers searching for the light switch.
"Let's just hope this thing didn't chew through the wires. If we're stuck in the dark, we're dead meat,"
he said, his voice tense. But before he could flip the switch, something yanked him into the room. A raspy growl echoed through the darkness, followed by the sickening sound of a struggle.
No, fuck it! Jake, help!
Mark's voice was filled with terror, and I couldn't wait any longer. I reached into the room, my hand fumbling for the switch, and finally clicked it on. The dim lights flickered to life, casting a cold, eerie glow across the room. My heart stopped when I saw it. The deranged creature crouched over Mark, its sharp, blood-stained teeth gnashing as it tried to bite through his neck. Mark was thrashing beneath it, his blood staining the cold metal slab as he screamed,
"Kill it! Kill the bitch!"
I grabbed the axe, my hand shaking but determined, and swung it with all my strength. The blade buried itself deep into the creature's spine. It let out this horrible, gut-wrenching howl, its grip on Mark loosening just enough. I didn't stop. I swung again, this time aiming higher, and with a sickening thud, the head came clean off, rolling across the floor. Yellow foamy liquid started spewing from the severed neck like some kind of vile fountain. Everything after that is a blur, just flashes of movement. Swing after swing, the axe came down, arms and legs flying, blood splattering everywhere. I remember the sickening sound of flesh being torn apart, the splashes of dark blood painting the walls. The worst part? The head. Even after it was separated from the body, its eyes were still rolling around, and it kept screaming,
"May your souls be damned."
in a voice that felt like it came straight from hell itself. At some point, Mark ripped the axe from my hands and finished it off, smashing the head until it was nothing but a pulpy mess on the cold floor. We stood there afterward, panting, staring at each other with blank, exhausted eyes. It felt like the end, but nothing about this was normal. For the next couple of hours, we gathered up the pieces of the corpses, shoving them into a rusty metal barrel. The smell of blood and rotting flesh hung heavy in the air as we scrubbed the cold tiles, trying to wash away the evidence of the massacre. Blood had seeped into the cracks, and no matter how hard we scrubbed, it felt like it would never really be clean. Mark was dead set on taking that barrel out behind the garages, into the woods, and setting the whole damn thing on fire, burning the devil's work we'd just been part of. Limbs, chunks of flesh, everything went into that barrel, like we were stuffing a fucking meat grinder from hell. Afterward, we patched ourselves up. Mark silently poured peroxide onto the gashes left by those freaks, the fizzing sound filling the quiet room as it hit our skin. We slapped on some bandages and taped up the worst of it, our hands still trembling. I didn't stick around for Steve's shift. I got the hell out of there, stumbling home in a daze, my head all kinds of messed up. For weeks, I was living in a fog. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that bloodbath. Me and Mark met up a couple of times after, knocked back some drinks, trying to drown out what we'd been through, but it was always there, lurking in the back of my mind. Then I went off to study in another state, trying to get my life back to normal. When I got back, I heard the news. Mark was dead. Just like that. 3 months after that night in the morgue, he was gone. Some kind of freak blood infection. Doctors didn't know what the hell it was, couldn't explain it. When I heard about it, my hand instinctively went to the scars I still had from that night. The ones left by those things. A chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't help but wonder, was I next? Honestly, it didn't make sense, none of it did. But deep down, I knew. It had something to do with that night.